Hello traders, welcome to today's market update. It is the 31st of August, which means that it is the final day of trading for this month before we go into September. So I wanted to do an update for you guys today on Bitcoin, Ethereum, the S&P, the Nasdaq, just going over my thoughts for the remainder of the month, just this final session of trading, and also what we can expect to see going into September. Okay, so I'm going to start off here with this chart. And just a very, very simple number. It's the monthly level, okay? No matter what chart this is, I'm looking on the Coinbase chart just because it's a clean one for myself. But this monthly level is very, very important. I've been saying for a few days now that the narrative is there for the potential bearish engulfing candle to be playing out here. Now, the last couple of times that we have seen this happen, it has led to substantial moves, okay? The last time that we had this, obviously back in April, where we had that bearish engulfing candle, we then had a pretty major move to the downside. And then again, when we had this bullish engulfing back last year in the summer, then we ended up making new all-time highs from that. So there is a narrative here. I've been saying basically since Monday, since the start of this week, that I do believe that we're just going to end up closing the month around about this level. Is going to be right up until that very last moment, it's going to be, oh, is it going to have this bearish engulfing? Is it not? Are we going to be looking at further downside? And it's just going to play a very big part of just in the way that traders are positioned and what we can potentially see going into next month. Now, ultimately, I really don't think it matters. I really do not think that whether we close below the monthly or whether we close above the monthly, I don't think that has any major knock-on effect going on into the next month, but it is a narrative for today, and I do think the price is just going to gravitate towards that level as we go into the close. So that's first of all, I just wanted to kind of explain that. Now, on the higher time frames as well, we do have these potential bullish divergences playing out. You can see on the RSI, with price making these equal lows and the kind of momentum here waning to the downside. And also, if we do look on the MACD and any other oscillators, again, you can see here this just loss of momentum to the downside, making these equal lows, which could give us the potential for a fairly major move to the upside. And I think that the pullback we've had over the past few days, coming back down towards these range lows once again, is there for this to be like a double bottom scenario on the higher time frames, which could give us a nice pop out of this. Now, I don't think that it's necessarily like from this, I'm certainly not expecting all-time highs, but it could be a similar situation where we had this low, we made these equal lows, and then we had a move back up to the top of the range, in which case I would be looking for that 30k region, that weekly order block, in order for this to give a bigger rally before any potential move to the downside once again. So we do have that on Bitcoin. That is something to be aware of. We do have these bullish divergences forming if we are going to make either equal lows here, or we could potentially come down and come back into that 17k region and still be making those bullish divergences, which could give us that move up. So this is obviously high time frame. We've got to be aware of that. And yeah, you've just got to trade it, again, as we always do, just level by level. But for now, yeah, closing around this monthly, and then I do think that a search for liquidity will happen fairly soon as we go into Sunday. Now, moving across here into the much more exciting stuff, okay, the actual timeframes that we do trade. We've had a few nice trades recently, so we've been just caught in this range. Basically between the Monday low and the Monday high. It always is the case. That is for the last few weeks, really. We've seen that this has been a recurring theme where the Monday range itself is just very much important for the rest of the week. And what we've seen recently is between that Asia and London session. So you can see here the session times, with the red here being these Asia sessions, as we go into the London. We've been getting these highs that have been happening on that transition from the Asia period into the London period, which then gets that move down through New York. So we have had that the past couple of days. That is something that I am also looking for today. And in fact, as we are coming up into this region right now, we are just coming up into this golden pocket, that 618 to 786 with the 702 in between. that little region here at the value area high or just above, that could lead us to a move back down into this monthly. So this is mainly the main target for myself. Okay, we're coming back into this wick space from the SFP that we had on that transition, and I myself am looking for a move down to the range point of control, to this monthly level, as we come into the rest of the day. I'm not really expecting any major move outside of this. Like I say, it is the final day of trading. We don't have any particular catalyst for today. However, if there is another move to the upside, then if I can just find them here, the MPOCs, then it is that 20,680 region that I'll be paying very keen attention to if we can get a move up before any further move to the downside. It's very similar where we are with the range as a whole. This being, if we are going to see expansion, then 20,680 being the main region of resistance that I'm looking for, and then we have the daily level a little bit lower down here at 19,300 as support. But ultimately, I think we remain contained within this range. I think we end up finding that by the end of today, price ends up around about that 19,900 region, and that potential bearish engulfing candle is the main narrative that we are looking at going into the end of the month here. Now, another thing to be aware of, okay, if we just go over onto, let's just have a look on this chart, on the session. So, I mean, I can show you this just from the open interest here. We've been seeing open interest just decreasing. So if you're looking at global open interest, we started the week around about 11 billion. We're now sat at 10.8 billion. That's across all exchanges. And we can see here, if we're looking at Bybit, just over the past few days, we've had this just general kind of tailing off of the open interest as we've been moving along here. Now, this is fairly typical for an end of month situation. We are in a time where traders are just going to be closing out their positions. They're going to be taking their profits and just kind of preparing for the next month here, as we kind of wrap up the month and as we just remain contained within a fairly flat range. So we are seeing that drop off in open interest. What I think we'll do is, as we start to go into September again, if we can hold within this range here, then I think we'll start to see open interest increasing over the first couple of days, and then there'll be a search for liquidity that will give us some volatility coming out of that. But I do think a little bit more time to settle here, as we did have quite a big move down at the end of last week. A little bit more time to settle before we do see that major move either up or down from where we are now. Another thing to mention, okay, so this again adds to the narrative that I am expecting. I mean, we've got a really balanced profile here. I'm expecting this to fill out a little bit more. We have a pretty poor like the composite down here at the lows here is fairly poor, so I am expecting that these lows do get taken at some point. Whether that happens, timing of which for that to happen, I'm not so sure, but we're just looking at these, just the lows, again, lows and 3 days in a row where we haven't really had any major volume, any major kind of move to the downside. And it's the same for the highs, okay, we've got very weak highs and very weak lows. I do expect that a search to break one of these is very likely, and I would expect that to be faded when that does happen. So if we do come down and take the range lows coming into that 19,300 region, that would certainly be a point where I'm looking for longs, and I do think that could give you a push. You push down, and then that gives you the power to push back up towards those 21, 22, whatever targets above. The very same for if we do come into this MPOC region, okay, you can see these highs here. If we can take out the highs, I do think that would generate enough liquidity to force a move down. So that's just basically, yeah, based off of the TPO chart here, is very much what I'm expecting. The amount of liquidity that will be either side of this range, I do think is enough to be fading whatever move comes from that, at least the first time. So I think that's Bitcoin. Really, there's not too much more to add on this. I don't want to do anything too crazy today. We're actually just coming up into the daily value area high here. So we do have this confluence here for this short position just as we speak. So this is a potential trade. And I mean, this sets you up really quite nicely. So I'm not taking it right now because I am recording a video, but I would imagine there is your the high of the day so far, and you can take this as a trade down here. So you have got this potential trade setup that we do have at the moment. And I think if I go back over here, yes, we are seeing bearish divergences as we come up into there. Okay, so you can see on the CVD the scale of that's not quite there. But there we go. You can see on the CVD here, price, ooh, price making a lower high as your CVD here is making a higher high. Okay, so there it is. Scale that correctly. You get the idea, right? There it is. And again, it's kind of clear. You're not so much getting it on the volume charts because we did have that nice spike up earlier, but certainly on the time-based charts, we are seeing those bearish divergences starting to form here. Cool, that is Bitcoin. If I go over onto Ethereum, what chart do I want to be showing on here? Again, we don't really have the same narrative as there being any bearish engulfing or anything like that. I mean, the monthly candles all the way down here on Ethereum, it had a much more powerful move up. But what we have seen is some really nice price action on Ethereum recently. It's been so great to trade, and we've been able to take some really, really good trades from that. So yeah, ideally where we are at the moment, we're in this golden pocket region from when we had that rising wedge. We came up into that order block, into the MPOC that we did have up here. That then generated the move down into this daily level, an area of support that we were looking at, and now we're coming into this golden pocket region. I think it's very likely with Ethereum that we just end up following mainly Bitcoin for the rest of the day. You can see here it's just holding at the top of this range. I do expect that the BTC pair is going to pull back slightly. So again, Ethereum probably very much likely just to hold around this region until we come into the end of the day. Again, a slight pullback is probably what I would be looking for more so than anything else. If we are going to get a move to the downside, and I think this would coincide with obviously Bitcoin getting that move down to the daily level at 19,300. I think if that were to happen with the BTC pair moving down as well, then there is an area here at 1,220 where we do have the POC of our whole range. We've got a nice block of orders here, so you can see here this. Oh, where am I? I'm on the 8 hour. So we've got an 8 hour order block. You've also got, this is very much consistent on the 4 hour on the daily and everything as well. And it is your 702. So what we've seen so much recently is price just coming in between that 618 and that 786. And settling at the 702 before we get that bounce and potential reversal from this. This also has this really kind of complex head and shoulders pattern playing out, which again could lead us to further downside, where you have like double shoulders on either side with this head here at the top. So that is what I'm looking at on Ethereum. We're at the value area high of the range. This is acting as resistance at the moment. We also have this as the golden pocket from this recent move down. So yeah, for me, looking at a little bit more downside on this, of course, I think it's just going to follow Bitcoin. So if Bitcoin just starts moving up like crazy, Ethereum is going to follow. And in that instance, we have really nice levels, the daily level back up here that we can be taking a look at, which would also line us up quite nicely with the POC of that previous range, which is where we found that resistance previously. Cool, Ethereum done. I think that's enough on this one. The S&P, okay, so what we have done on the SPX, if I go onto the daily, we've come into this little daily order block. We barely tapped it, okay, but we did have that, and we are also settling at the 0.5 after a similar structure to what we're seeing on Ethereum, with this head and shoulders playing out and giving us that move to the downside. I don't have any strong thoughts or strong bias on the S&P at the moment. I do think that even if we are going to see a move up, and even if this is going to be just a long consolidation, I think we're looking for a little bit more downside, at least down to this 3860 kind of region. The level that we're at, the 0.5 with an order block here, is okay, but there is a lot more below us that I would be looking at before we can expect any bigger move here. And if you look at the gaps that we've got below, there's quite a lot of inefficiencies here on the chart that I would expect to be taken care of before we do see any move to the upside. Now, if that doesn't happen and this region does fail, so if we do come back into that 3860 kind of region and that fails to hold, then things could start to look like really, really bad. So if we just go back and look at the comparisons here, so this is on the daily, this is the 2008 recession. Okay, and what we're basically seeing is we've had a pretty decent rally over the past couple of months. If you compare what we've seen recently over the past 2 months with what we saw back in that first half, well, back in those first few months of 2008, it's very, very similar. And I would say that today we're looking at price being around about that same thing. You can see here a daily order block at this low, at the 0.5, price gets that bounce off of it. Ultimately, it fails to hold, it starts grinding through, and then you start taking out the lows. And from this point here, there was, I believe, like a 60%, like some, yeah, a mad correction. Going back down, yeah, you're looking at above more than a 50% correction from the high that was put in off of that rally, which could, I mean, we transfer this over to here and we look at, like, the structure's so similar. Okay, it is, yeah, very similar. So you do need to be aware of this, and especially with the whole everything that's going on in the world right now, a 50% correction from where we are on major assets is certainly not out of the question. I would be amazed if this goes and continues on making new highs when economically the world is in a pretty bad place. So let's just see where a 50% correction would take us back down to. And it does take you down to those COVID lows, okay? And if we are saying that, okay, we went through endless money printing throughout the whole COVID crash, which gave you this big inflation of prices across all asset class, like every single asset class, it gave you that massive inflation. Where are you going to look to kind of reset things? It would be a move back down towards these lows and then to settle around where we have like actual genuine support rather than just spiking into it, okay? So it is a concern. It has to be a concern for everyone in the market that something like this has a very high probability, not very high probability. It is a very genuine concern that I think you need to be aware of, that there is the potential for assets to get a lot worse before they get better. But again, we're traders, so we're only looking at this from a level to level basis, and we've just got to trade it as such. We can make money on the way down, so it really doesn't matter. It's just going to be a bit awful for, I mean, everyone if everything goes down. So something to be aware of. But yeah, I'm a trader, so I can't be too much looking into that. And it's a similar situation on the Nasdaq. Okay, here we have a daily order block, daily level down here in that 0.5 after we had met that resistance at the 618. Now, again, you're seeing a strong rally, and if we do go back to the Nasdaq back in 2008, it again is a similar situation where you had that pretty decent rally before a major move to the downside. Where did price come into off of that second rally? It was into that golden pocket region, that 618.702 before it failed. And again on here, you're looking at this being a from those highs, again 50% correction from where we were. So if we're looking at a similar situation here with price coming into that 618, then where does your 50% correction take you? It is down to the COVID crash lows. So the symmetry is there with what we have seen in previous recessions. The narrative is there for what we have seen in previous recessions, and you've just got to trade it sensibly in order to, yeah, benefit if this does happen. I guess it's going to be a massive opportunity. If we do get that pullback, it's just going to be pain for obviously everyone whilst that does happen. Apple. Okay, so moving on to other trades. This was the short that was taken on Apple as we came up into this gap here at 175. We've hit take profit one here at 157. So this basically being the first inefficiency to the downside. You have the 382 here, and then ultimately I'm looking for this trade to come down towards that $150 region on Apple. So a very nice take profit one to be able to get a short of this, like this much of a good short with such a perfect entry up at the highs here. I'm pretty happy about. So this is one of the really kind of, yeah, nice trades that I've taken recently that's perfectly hit that take profit one and is starting to see a bounce from that region. There's not too much else that I really want to cover. Obviously, Euro, again, we are back below $1 here on the Euro, but it is continuing to hold this region. So we did hit take profit one on the Euro USD trade. There is demand below here, so we clearly do have demand below $1, and it is being pushed up. And again, where I'm looking for this to end up ultimately is back up towards that basically $1.01 region, a little bit higher. GBP is making new lows. Okay, so this is continuing down. We did have that SFPF of the highs, and now we've seen a continued pullback. I'm not really looking at this at the moment. I don't have any higher time frame analysis, but you'd have to say again, where are we looking at COVID crash lows as a target on this? Now the DXY. Finally, we have taken one set of liquidity. I'm expecting two sets of liquidity to be taken before we do see any major pullback. So we did take out our local highs, and that gave us a pretty good rejection. I do think that we are going to take out 109,770 before we see any bigger move to the downside. So basically what I'm looking at on the dollar index is that one more push to the upside, which takes us all the way back 20 years in the past. So this will be a 20-year high that we will get potentially in September. So this high here was put in September of 2002. And again, I think if we're talking narratives and we're talking like a story trading, to me, I like to be able to put a story to whatever trade it is. To have a 20-year high exactly 20 years after that was put in, I think would be a very strong narrative to get a decent pullback. And what I would be ultimately looking for is that short position, or to trade against the dollar once we do come into that 109,770 region, and then to take that down to around about that 107, 106. So we will, yeah, I mean, we'll wait and see what happens with that, but that is certainly, yeah, something along these lines with that move up towards the highs before we get that pullback is ultimately what I am looking for. Nothing else really to add, just gold, waiting for these lows to be taken on gold. So I've been building short position on gold, and I do think that there's tons of liquidity down here. So we're looking at 1,660 region. I do think that we're going to get that move down again, probably early on in September. I do think that in September we do initially move down, and then we probably get a bit of a recovery as we go into the latter stages of the month. If we don't get that recovery in the latter stages of the month, things start to look really, really bad. So yeah, thank you for watching. I'm not going to do any more on this because I've been talking for 21 minutes. But if you did find that useful, then please do like the video. Please do click subscribe if you are not done so already. And do go over and visit toroscrypto.com. Okay, this is where you can find out more about ourselves. You can join the free Discord community here. You can also learn more about the crew, where we do daily trading updates. We give constant updates onto the market here, and I can give you a quick view here of what you do get from the Discord if you are in the crew. So this is the crew section. Every day you get these trading update sheets, and I mean, so far they always do. They play out really nicely, okay? So we've got a pretty good feel for the market. We do understand what's going on. We've had some really nice trades yesterday. SFPs are the highs during the London volatility sessions. Short off of the VWAP that came into your golden pocket here before a move up. Really, really straightforward, simple trades, okay? Constant updates on all of these trade setups that we've been talking about previously. And yeah, I mean, these have just been hitting really nicely. So this was the short that was taken yesterday. We were looking ultimately at the potential for that daily open to hold as a counter trade to come into that daily MPOC before coming down to the monthly. But ultimately, yeah, you have the SFP, and then you get a really nice trade down from that. That was yesterday's trading room that we did during the London session. So yeah, that's obviously my page. You've got luxury on here as well, talking about all this various stuff, a very similar idea. Where we are looking for these highs to get taken once more on the DXY before a bigger pullback. We got trading chat going nice and strong over here, and so on. French Bull giving his updates and all of those lovely kind of things. So yeah, I'm gonna take that back off. I'm gonna say thank you very much, everybody, for watching. I hope you have a great day trading. I hope you enjoy the rest of the day, and yeah, let's see what September brings. Cheers, bye.